Okay, I'll be as quick as I can through this. In a sense, I thought I shouldn't really go down this path, not after my little reading from the National Geographic, because that's so elevating, so inspirational, so close to the earth, so real, so human. But this is something we have to face, not just as horse owners. Everyone that's got land that isn't in a secure rainfall zone has to face some of the implications of this. And I thought it might be comforting for you to know that, I mean, you know, how bad can it get? I started taking these photos back in the late 90s. I've got dozens of them. And I'm kind of feeling that if some action doesn't take place, I should get thousands more because they're out there. These are not horse properties. So, sheep, cattle, dead animals on that property. Cattle, you can see, feed line. Where's the feed line? Along the bloody ridge. This property, there are more tracks on this property than there are areas where anything could grow. Nothing growing there. So you don't see any tussocks. Looking back to the shots that Ian was showing you and my shots, you see the tussock land. That's a perennial tussock land. There was no perennial grass there at all. So it's all annual grasses or broadleaf weed, which is why in summer there's nothing there. So where would I be going with that? So that's what you're looking at. No perennial grasses. The annual grasses are dead and gone. So the sun is cooking the ground, as you see from the next dot point down after no ground cover at all. The summer soil temperatures are somewhere around 50 degrees. We don't handle that too well. Over 1,000 people have died in Pakistan recently with similar temperatures. Animals don't handle it, neither do subsoil flora and fauna, the drivers of the vegetation that grows in the soil. And then, of course, the massive soil loss, and I've got photographs of soil pouring down hillsides and into creeks off hillsides like the ones we saw. And that's typical of the hill country of the Mount Lofty Ranges, especially as we get out from the higher rainfall zone. So, you know, I put in my notes that that's irresponsible in the very least. It's against the law, if you want to do the criminal thing. And even worse, most of us are in a water catchment. And the whole idea is, which is why I did the stuff with the Upper Torrens Land Management Project, was that the water that comes off our properties, the water that we hold on our properties, let alone the water that comes off our properties, should come off as clean as possible. Which is why a native grass landscape is so beneficial, because you technically don't have to fertilise it. You don't have to fertilise it to get it established, as Ian's pointed out to you, and you can, if you've pushed it a little bit too far, you may need to rejuvenate it with fertiliser, but probably not with superphosphate. So, yeah, so the implications are that all of that high country, the hill country, and any of that you've got, that's all a recharge zone. So you actually have to understand the water cycle. And so the infiltration of water into that high country recharge zone, eventually going down to groundwater or seeping out on the lower slopes. And your perennial vegetation, when you get it in of C3s and C4s of the natives, is going to give you the kind of percolatory soil that's going to allow the infiltration of water. The whole thing that we are all going to have to do is to hold as much water on our land as possible. And as it's quite clear from that does not hold water As soon as you get summer rainfall or the first autumn rains early, these sort of landscapes just run with water. It pours off and takes topsoil with it. Now, it's been doing that since I started taking those photos. I mean, clearly there's no topsoil there anymore. It's into another layer. So can those areas be rejuvenated? Can they be reconstructed? Hell, I don't know. I mean, it's something we're going to have to face, but we can't continue to let that go. And I know horse owners get bad press, but these properties don't get bad press, but they should. So, I mean, it's pretty simple. We use the idea of game changer. Well, you know what, if we're playing this kind of game, very soon there's going to be no game left to play. These are facts. This is not Tony Abbott denier stuff. These are facts. We are going to be down by 20%. That means in your dams, on your property, and in our reservoirs. That's what's going to happen by 2050, probably earlier. My timeline of droughts that I sort of researched a bit, I know there are variations in things like this, but you see the clustering coming in from the late 90s through the decade of the noughties. And then we have a little reprieve for a few years, but in many cases still in drought. With our trees stressed, you can see it around the countryside now. So there's something causing that, and it's probably because there is no deep groundwater, despite what we've just had in the last couple of months. So we may not have come out of the noughties drought. May have just looked like that. Some useful stuff there about the types of droughts. It's worth looking at that when you get hold of the text for this, because the last one there looks at the social effects of drought. And some of you have probably looked at Landline and other programs, and you will have seen that that is killing people. Drought is killing people. They're committing suicide. Their lives are being ruined. Rainfall. Keep a good idea on your rainfall. It used to be, when we looked at, well, this is terrific, Birdwood, when we bought in 1973, this is good, 730 mil rainfall zone, water catchment, beaut place to live. Okay, I wish I had decent figures for before 2008, but these are all decent figures. Have a look at those. For a 730 mil zone. And this one, the 810, that's only 810 because it rained 167 millimetres in December of that year, supposedly the break. The drought has ended. Well, 167 mils in December with heat waves to follow, with no C4 grass or C3 native grasses to respond to it, is useless in a rural landscape. And then we really have to think about El Nino. It's a climatic cycle of our era, which goes by two names usually, the Holocene, the Anthropocene, meaning the era of man. Mega El Ninos have been on 300 to 500 year cycles for millennia. This didn't just happen recently. And the collapse of civilizations, that should say, has been attributed to them. Late last century, have a look at that. 7 to 15 years they were cycling. Yeah, these are the minor El Ninos, if you like. In recent times, 2 to 7 years. Not more of the same, but more and much worse is what will happen. So this is where we go back to what a couple of us have mentioned, and I think Kim might have, about salvation science. Miracles, miraculous grasses. Well, no, they're not miraculous, but by gee, they're smart. And Ian pointed out to you why they're smart. It's because of how long they've been here and what they've been through. They made their presence about 14 million years ago in the arid lands, and from about 1.6 million years ago across Australia were dominant. This is a significant plant group. The benefits are going to be on many levels for you. I've just looked at the hydrologic stuff. And so I'm suggesting, as I hinted to you a while ago, you could be among the first to successfully engineer this transformation. As horse people are not having to have something that gives you wool, fat lambs, all that kind of stuff, you don't have to drive your landscape. You have to cleverly manage your landscape. So why not cleverly manage it with something that's cleverer than you. Maybe between the two of you, something terrific can come up. Yep, there is no management formula yet. I wouldn't be presenting this if there was a management formula. Someone else would be standing there, not with Bob's case study about growing grasses, but this is how I manage my pastures as a horse person. This is what I've been doing for so many years. But one of those people can't stand here. We don't have them in South Australia to do that. So when you take this up, which I'm sure some of you will, and maybe going with the Kim's thing, so you can get a bit of connectivity, if I can go back to the Transylvanian thing. Yeah, you'll be undertaking pioneer management techniques. And as Ian said, and it's been stressed by Andrew as well, it's all about management. Pretty much everything is, isn't it? Life's about that, you know, how you manage, how you're going, managing your life. Oh, I'm not too good at present, right? And so this is the thing that people keep missing. Well, they don't talk about it. The downside is that Australian native grasses didn't evolve with hard-hoofed animals in an agricultural setting over many centuries. And now we're expecting to be, as we said on the other side, miracle grasses. Well, they can't be. They're different. And so something different has to happen with their management. I think being a pioneer is a pretty good thing to be, especially intelligent pioneers at this stage. Yeah, we're more educated than the first people that arrived here. So, my challenge to you, this is not fair to end up saying this to you, but you might like to say it to somebody else. I've just attended a game changer workshop. You know, you're standing there in front of Flora or whatever your horse's name is, and yeah, on horse health. I know that I can improve your health immeasurably, but sorry mate, it's too hard for me at present. I just can't get my head around this. Well, as I suggested a little while ago, I think the Sisterhood of Horse Enthusiasts can be the catalyst for landscape change in the Mount Lofty ranges. You know, can you pull this off? Well, I believe you can. That's all I wanted to say. Thanks.